Hello, I'm Alex Bacano, insurance journalist. Welcome back to the channel. I am passionate about one thing and one thing only, which is to save you money on premium, whether it's health insurance, car insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance, you name it, I'm for it. Now, someone had a question about car insurance and what are some ways that car insurance companies, car insurance carriers are looking to maximize the profit that they earn off of you. Now, there are several ways that this happens, there are several ways that this takes place, but the ways that I want to discuss in this video are the most likely, the ones that are gonna be the things that you encounter the most. Let's take a look at some of them. So car insurance by its nature is kind of awesome because you can go ahead and take that car insurance coverage and you can transfer it from one company to another if the company does not do what you want it to do. If you feel that your car insurance premiums are too expensive or too much, you have the illusion of choice. You can jump on Jerry, you can jump on whatever app and then find a price that is conducive to you. Now, the downside to this is that, of course, if you're jumping from one car insurance company to another, you're not necessarily sure as to whether or not you're getting a good deal. These car insurance documents, policy documents, are massive. The amount of coverage they have for different situations, for different moments, different events, vary from company to company. And of course, the limits that you are given, not necessarily the same from one place to another. Let's take a look at one of the first ones that comes to mind. The first thing that came to my mind regarding car insurance and how car insurance companies are kind of muddying the waters and confusing us a little bit is by making it where you feel as if you have a false sense of security, as if you have this blanket over you that is providing you safety and comfort. But the reality is it is not as extensive as you think as it may be. For example, you may have an accident, God forbid. And now if you have that accident, you're gonna take medical damage, medical injuries that are gonna be sustained. The insurance company, whichever one it may be, has a set amount of time in which they are gonna pay for medical damages incurred during an accident. It varies from company, it varies from one place to another or one state to another, but one of the most common limits that you're gonna find time-wise as far as paying for your injuries resulting from a car accident is 1 year of payment. Think about that for a second. You have a car accident, you may very well have serious injuries. Those injuries may very well exceed treatment beyond the year. But if you choose a car company just based on premium, just based on how much you're paying, you may find out the hard way that when you have an accident, or if you just have basic liability of the other person, that you're gonna be in a situation where you're only gonna cover up to a year. That is pretty serious. You're gonna leave yourself exposed potentially to some hazards, some risks. I would love to hear from others in the comments below if you've had similar experiences where car insurance just didn't come through the way you thought it would regarding medical expenses or medical damages. Let's take a look. The second thing that came to mind is that car insurance companies have a nasty habit of deciding when you're done with your medical treatment. Not when you're medically good, not when you're medically taken care of, not when you're medically satisfied, when they feel that you've received enough treatment to justify what they've paid up to that point. Now, every one of us heal differently. You may have an injury that takes longer to heal than others. You may have injuries that do not materialize or develop till a long time after an accident. Now, of course, there are going to be limits as to how far out you can go ahead and claim that. But one of the big sticking points is that your treatment, your physical rehabilitation, may very well take longer than is outlined on a simple policy document. In that case, you may very well find the situation with some of these insurance carriers that you're not gonna have enough coverage to meet your treatment because they've decided that you've hit an arbitrary limit based on their underwriting, based on their experience for the injury as a whole, as an average, which may not be consistent with you because you may very well be an outlier. Not all of us are built the same. Let's take a look at another way that car insurance companies, in particular, premium doesn't always reflect the value that we're receiving. The third way that came into my mind was the fact that there are low coverage limits. Think about this for a second. The whole point of car insurance is that you're driving along, you get into an accident. Not only are you hoping to be able to pay for your car if you have comprehensive, however, you're also looking to pay for other people's damages that you have along the way. There may be low coverage limits that are not enough to meet the damages that were the result of an accident. One famous story that came to mind when I was a kid was that there was this girl, she was driving, fell asleep, hit a fence somewhere, and then hit an airplane. And when she hit the airplane, the coverage limit that she had for her policy was exceeded. it went over. Now, at this point, there was also additional insurance that the aircraft had that covered the gap between the two, but she could have been at stake for larger damages, God forbid, if there was something there that didn't take place, or maybe that we don't know about, or maybe that the insurance didn't cover, or some sort of loophole. That is why it's important to always ask the question, what is your insurance coverage limit? Don't just go for premium. Don't just say, okay, look, I'm gonna pay this much as opposed to this much and be satisfied because you have a lower monthly premium. Also take a look at what exactly your coverage is. Because remember, insurance is transferring your risk from you and handing it off to somebody else. That's the whole point of insurance. So why would you take just the bare essential minimum, right? If you can help it, if you can spare maybe $20, $10, $50, whatever it is, the difference, to ensure that you're not left holding the bag in the event of a catastrophic moment. Let's take a look at another scenario that comes to mind. Another way that car insurance companies are sort of making life a little harder for you is that they're oftentimes not the quickest to pay for bills. If you have medical bills that are taking place because you're going to therapy, you're going to rehab, maybe you're getting treatment, the insurance carrier is going to process those bills. It's going to take a look at those bills and say, okay, these are bills that are part of the process of healing, maybe not part of the process of healing. And as a result, they're going to delay payment. Now, if you're worried about your credit history, you're worried about your payments, you're worried about your financial stability, this may not be comfortable for you. You might want to go with an insurance company, not just based on premium, but also based on its service history, making sure that it's a company that is not necessarily a fly-by-night operation, but one that has a history of providing sound customer service to its clients during all events and all times. That is kind of a big deal. So when they give you that slogan, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, they're not BSing you, they're quite serious. This is a company that's looking to provide you service. Doesn't mean they always hit that stride or hit that expectation. Maybe, maybe not. That's up to people. We could go ahead and have a conversation as to what your experiences have been in that situation. But this is what we're talking about. You want to be with a company that provides you some modicum of service to ensure that you do not have issues such as bills that are being paid late. I love talking about insurance. There have been a couple of videos that I made in the past regarding other forms of insurance that may be useful to you. Health insurance, dental insurance. Make sure to check those out. I've linked them above for you to be able to take a look and hopefully grow and experience and learn what these terms are, what these things are, because insurance, even though it's one form of insurance, the terminology, the concepts are all the same, whether we're talking about waiting periods, deductibles. The commonality between every single type of insurance is that it has these constructs or these names or these terms. Make sure to check it out. It might be extremely useful for you. If you like the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. These things really tend to help out the video grow, as this is a very young channel, very young process, and I want to make sure that we make this thing really bigger than it is. As always, I appreciate your support and look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care of yourselves. Bye.